All right, CNT125, Firewall Security Lab. We left off with, we had just configured our firewall, and we have our workstation. It's picking up an IP dynamically. There you go, IP config, there we go. It's picking up an IP dynamically, and all we did was did a simple test to 192.168.1.1, and we're able to ping the gateway. That's as far as we've gotten so far with the client. Let's do a couple more tests to see what's going on. Let's try to ping the ISP router. Ping 172.16.0.1, and we're going to get a timeout. This firewall is designed to stop most traffic. So since we haven't gone in and permitted ICMP, it's not letting ICMP pass through it. So that's going to time out. If I were to try to ping the web server, that should time out as well. Ping 10, 10, 10, 3. Looks like that's timing out as well, which makes sense. Let's also try to browse to the web server. So I'm going to cancel that. I'll go here to the web server, and again I'll plug in www.cnt.org, and again, if I wait long enough, it's going to say it can't resolve this host name. It won't be able to load this web page. So if I wait about a minute, I will actually get that. But what I'm seeing right now is the web page is not loading. And again, this all makes sense because the firewall has not been, we have not set anything up on the firewall to let traffic through. So we're going to do that. We're going to go into the firewall. We're going to set up what's called a policy map to let certain types of traffic through. All right, this is going to take a couple steps. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it. So into our ASA here, enable member class is our password. So we're in, and now we're going to create an inspection map, a class map for inspection, and then we're going to set up a policy map, and then in there we will let certain types of traffic through. All right. So config T, we need a class map. And we're going to call it inspection. Oh my goodness, inspection default. After that, we'll say match default inspection traffic. Okay, that's a list of things in there. We'll exit. We're then going to do policy map, and we're going to do global policy. Oops, I need the underscore there. There we go. Global policy. We'll do class inspection default. Okay. So then we'll do in here inspect ICMP. So that is going to be added to the list to inspect it, let it through, but inspect it. So we'll say exit now. We'll do service policy global policy global. Global policy, we want to apply it globally to the ASA. And again, we'll do a write mem to save our configuration so far. And if you haven't done it, it might be a good time now. I've actually done a save as of mine called Brown Security Lab. So I'm just going to go up here and save that. Maybe you want to do a file save as and give yourself a name for this, Smith Security Lab or whatever, and save that. That way, just in case we have any failures, you can at least open that back up. Okay, so on my ASA now, I've done that, and I'll do a show run. And I'll see down here, if I keep going, I will see that I have created all this in here. But the big piece out of this whole thing is we're inspecting now ICMP. So with that in mind, if I now ping some things, I should get some traffic through now. So I'll open up my test PC again, and I'm going to ping the 172.16.0.1. That's our ISP, and we get traffic through. So the ASA is allowing that through. I'll ping the 10, 10, 10, 3, the web server. That gets through now too. So our ICMP traffic is getting through. Let's try to browse to the web server. So 10, 10. Oh, wait, we're using CNT.org. There we go. www.cnt.org. And that's not going to work because we have not permitted HTTP. We've permitted ICMP, but not HTTP. All right. So again, I could let that wait a minute. It'll time out. It'll say cannot resolve. I'll leave that sit there and see what we get when we come back to it. Let's go back in now on the ASA and let's add HTTP. Okay, so we're just going to go back into this policy map, this inspection default list, and add HTTP. So, policy, config T, policy map, our global policy that we created, ICY, class inspection default that we created, and we're going to say inspect HTTP. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to do inspect and do a question mark and show you these are the different protocols we could be adding to it. Okay, just so you realize that. So we'll exit out of that, and I can save that. Exit, right, mem. And so, oh my goodness, right meme, nice. Right mem, save that, and I can do a show run, and I will see in here that I have added HTTP to my list. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this PC, and you'll see that it did time out. It wouldn't load that web page. So this time around now that I've done that, there's my inspect HTTP. Let's do our pings, and then let's try to browse to our web server. So I'm going to ping 10.10.10.3. So let's go back to the command prompt. Ping 10.10.10.3. That should work. That has worked before. And I'm going to browse to 10.10.10.3. Aha! So our website opened using the IP address. Well, let's try to ping the domain name. So let's try, back here. Let's try to ping www.cnt.org. So I can browse to the IP address of the web server, 10.10.10.3, but I'm having trouble either pinging the domain name or, and I'll wait a second, I'll try to browse to the domain name. And I will probably get failures. This is just sitting here timing out, not able to do anything. So I'll do a Control-C on that. I'll go out here, and I'll go to my web browser again, www.cnt.org. And again, that'll just sit here and wait. It won't actually be able to do anything. And the reason is we have not allowed DNS traffic. Remember, when you put a domain name in, it has to resolve to an IP address using DNS. Well, we haven't permitted DNS, so this won't work, nor will the ping to the domain name work either, because it has to resolve that into an IP address. So let's go add DNS to our inspection list. Okay. So again, config T. We want to do policy map, and we have our global policy that we're going to edit. And we'll do class inspection default that we created. AULT, there we go. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay. Inspect DNS. Inspect DNS. There we go. Maybe if I can type correctly. Exit, exit. We'll do a write mem on this guy. And we'll do a show run. And down here, I should see now DNS is added to the list. So if I go try that, okay, let's go back to our test PC over here. I'm going to, let's ping our domain name. So let's try to ping, get back here. There we go. Ping www.cnt.org, and we'll see if it resolves, and look at that, it resolves right away. So I'm able to ping the domain name, so I should be able to browse to the domain name, www.cnt.org, and it resolves it, and bada bing, bada boom, I have a web page now, because I've allowed DNS traffic through. Okay, let's try an additional piece of traffic. Let's now try to ping our ftp.cnt.org. Okay, So let's do ping ftp.cnt.org. Now it hopefully should resolve that for us. It might take a second or two because it's the first time we're doing it. Has resolved the 10.10.10.4, which is good. And now we're getting traffic. Let's do a new ping to it. And we're getting pings right off the bat now. So once it's resolved this name into an IP address, we're able to ping it. Okay, so our site out there, ftp.cnt.org, is now responding, if you will. So let's see if we can open an FTP session to it, because that is our FTP server. We're actually trying to talk to this thing over here, this FTP server that we have running. So let's see if we can talk to it. So let's try to open an FTP session. We'll use FTP, and then we'll plug the name in of that entity. We're going to FTP to this thing right here. We'll try it. And we're going to find that it's going to time out because we haven't allowed FTP traffic through our firewall. Okay, that's what it amounts to. So here again, it's not working because we have not allowed FTP through. So let's do that. Let's add FTP to our inspection list. So on the ASA, come over here. We'll go back in, config T. We want to alter our policy map. So policy map, we have our global policy that we're editing. And we're going to do class inspection default that we created. We're going to do inspect FTP. And we'll do an exit on that. Exit, write mem, save our progress. And I can even do a show run. And I'll look for that down here now. FTP is now on the list. All right, so let's try that. From our workstation, we should be able to ping it. We were able to before. So ping ftp.cnt.org, no issue. We were able to do that before. So that has not changed. So now let's try to open that. Let's try to open an FTP session. So FTP to ftp.cnt.org. Now we're accessing it. Username of test. Password of password. Now type with confidence there. You'll notice the cursor doesn't move. Type with confidence. And I'm now FTP'd into it. I'm connecting the FTP server. I'll do a directory listing. These are all the things that are in there that I could download if I wanted to. I'm not going to download anything, but I did connect, so I'm going to do a quit. So I'm actually able to run an FTP session across there. Okay? So as we're working with firewalls, what you're noticing, especially on this one, pretty much nothing was permitted through, and we have to very systematically start allowing traffic through. Now that's a very basic setup because this is a very basic firewall in Cisco Packet Tracer. But that gives you the idea, some of the basic idea of some firewall rules that I would be putting in. I would and I could start writing some additional rules by VLANs or from subnets and that sort of thing. But we're going to do that over on the router so you get the idea how to do it on a different piece of equipment as well. So right now we're going to save our config on the ASA so we have that for submission. So I will do a brand new show run here. Space, space, space. Carefully scroll up. And I'm going to save all this, copy, and I'll paste it into a text file so that I can submit to D2L. I'll make this plain text. And then I'll save this to my desktop, and I think I'm calling it, what am I calling this guy? ASA Config. Yeah, I thought it was something very basic. ASA Config. Something very basic that will submit to D2L. Now I have my ASA config from the first part of the lab. Alrighty, we'll come back in the next part of the lab, start working on our router.